Okay, Monday edition of the After Show. Got Wink and Justice with you. Wink over here on the East Coast.
And Justice over here on the west coast of the contiguous United States of America. It is once again Metaphor Monday, another Metaphor Monday in which we call things what they are. No similes allowed as much as we can help it. At least not today. Hey, Wink, how are you doing?
Not bad. It's 49 degrees out there, and it's headed to 55, 56 later this afternoon, so we'll take that. And it's drizzly, but it's a kind of an April showers kind of day. Only a sprinkling instead of a shower, but we'll take it. Well, it beats the hell out of snow. Trust me on that. So we're loving life here in April. Reminder to get in the chat. Just go to netrootsradio.com. Scroll down the bottom of the page, and on the right-hand side of the bottom of the page, there is a link to the chat. So click that. Join us there.
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to walk over you there, but to the left of the chat room link, and I, with all sincerity, I apologize for hammering the fact that we have a donate contribute button to the leftish of the chat room link. But with all kidding aside, and I usually try to make this segment a little jocular, they don't make machines to last, and no. the machines that we have now also have this thing called software. And so when they don't make a machine to last, they also make you get like the software for it. Yep. And you would think if you're going to try to create a semblance of artificial intelligence, you would have the guts and the body together instead of separate. But I guess that is what makes us part of the interface, right? So that long-winded message is just that it takes money to purchase those things. We have to upgrade machines and do some redundancy, and that's so that we can continue resisting this travesty, whatever it is. It's not of this world. And,
right. Indeed.
So thank you for allowing us to do that with your generosity. And as a side note, after show podcasts can be had by way of Spreaker. That's the raw data file. And then the more perfected files will come later by way of Podbean, iTunes, TuneIn, etc. Spreaker. I think I said Spreaker. Stitcher is what I mean. Spreaker is raw data file. Yep. Perfected file is Stitcher, Podbean, etc., etc., etc. Okay, you're along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon. It says on the Weather Underground site right now that in my area is 30 degrees. I don't believe it because I did go outside and it looks like it's more like 41 where I'm at. So I don't know where this weather station is that some person has in, like, I guess a shadowy, secluded valley over there towards Gold Hill, which is, I don't know, about 7 miles southeast of me. So, well, actually a little bit more east. So that is getting, the 7 miles closer to where the mountains are. So I don't know, Wink, but we're supposed to go up to 67. I think we're going to go a tad higher than that where I'm at. There's another couple of weather stations just up I-5 from me in Grants Pass. And, I've been thinking about getting one of these things. Just it's a little tower and it gives wind speed and it's all digitized and it has a satellite link that goes to, the Meteorological Society and the parts of NASA that monitors the weather. And so, they take all these data points, right?
Yeah.
But what's neat about these machines is that, that data point can be very specific. I mean, within, that yard that it's planted in. So I've been looking at them. They're not terribly cheap. So I don't know. Maybe when we become a full-blown, internet terrestrial radio station, we'll need to have one of those, plugged somewhere on the lot.
Oh, definitely.
So, and of course, I've got my work cut out for me in the yard. I hate getting old. It's kind of hard to do this work. It's enjoyable to be out in the sun, but I got to tell you, it'd be much more enjoyable with, a nice ice cold cocktail in hand while I'm,
Yeah.
watching someone do it.
Right. Yeah,
But,
exactly.
but oh well, I've got some work cut out for me in terms of clearing out these beds that we removed this sticky bush. I kept calling it a pyracantha, and if anyone knows about a pyracantha, this one is much more deadly. It's deadlier than a pyracantha. Its thorns. I mean, people make jokes. Well, you can make a needle out of this. I'm thinking, I don't know. It looks to me like you could puncture leather with this, and make a
Right.
big old hole for a belt loop. Yee.
Yeah.
Scary stuff. So I'm manicuring this, but what's happened, is that there's all sorts of junk in the soil. Some good things. There's some nice river stones that are kind of somewhat buried, bricks, which I can put to use. But it's the black visqueen that was put down to keep back the weeds. And it probably did for about a year or two. And now it's just a mess of this plastic in the ground I got to get out. And of course, it's all coming apart and weeds had grown through it. Nice, huh? Well, and then also what it did, it kind of made a barrier so that, your water just kind of stands there. It's just, I don't know. I remember doing that as part of my landscaping strategy so that really you don't want to put chemicals down on the ground. So it was trying to mitigate that, except to putting plastics, which I don't know. Yuri would probably tell us that it's not going to leach into the ground, but it's a pain in the ass to pull out because you want to have a nice clean flower bed to put down new hedges or new plants and bushes and things like that.
Heck
yeah. Oh, if anybody out there wants to dissuade me from, I'm not necessarily transplanting my Japanese maple, a red leaf Japanese maple, but it had been planted wrong, so I need to pull it up a tad so that I have the mound on the top. Now, it's been in the ground for, I don't know, a year and a half, say? Or no, just about a year. And if someone wants to dissuade me from doing that because it might damage the plant, you can do that in the chat room. You can do that on, to me, at Justice Putnam on Twitter. Or at Daily Kos in the comment section on the diaries where we post the show notes and whatnot. So I've been to a nursery or nurseries where sometimes Japanese maples themselves have been buried in the ground, and they pulled them up and put them in a box and sent them to us. So, but I hate the fact that, my poor mom, let these people do stuff. And they planted this thing wrong. They planted it so that it would sit in like a bath of water. Isn't that nice? And by sitting in a bath of water, I mean like it would be the equivalent of you being shrunk down to the size where you can be drowned in a bathtub.
Yeah.
Isn't that familiar? Jeez. Yeah. All right. These are the issues that we will be attending to today. It used to be that the weekends, were such nice, segments in our time, in our week. It would be quiet. We could sort of veg a little bit if we wanted to, or, do things in a much more, less threatening. The world was less threatening to us, say, on the weekends.
Right.
But now it's like, there's so much. By Monday, I'm like, God, man, stuff that happened on Saturday is already old news, and I'm still reeling from what happened on Wednesday. And then the weekend comes up, and but these are the issues we will be attending to today, and they are. The finances of Team Trump reveal they are neck deep in the swamp. Oh, yeah, those financial disclosures are coming in, and we're finding out what is really going on. Which leads to the next story, because Trump's head of the National Trade Council hopes to profit from America's failure. Hey, he's selling short on America, buddy. The guy for the National Trade Council.
Gotta love it.
We're hearing this idea again, floated by Shavitz. well, Donald Trump is too rich to be corrupt. Remember when I heard that? Greenspan said, in essence, in his gobbledygook, he said, well, I had no idea that people of my status would ever, ever, ever do anything untoward.
Right.
Yeah. And you're thinking, well, how the hell did they get where they were? Not all of them were
Yeah.
born in it. Some of them were like literal backstabbers. And you think people in your station of life are incapable of sin? What? So we're hearing Shabbat say that. Oh, well, Trump can't be corrupt because he's already rich. I've never met a rich person yet that doesn't want more.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
No question.
I'm serious. Yep. You know, even when they say that they don't want more, you look at like, well, okay, I'll just put this in an investment and they'll just give me a little more. Not a whole lot more, but just a little more. Because everybody's still got to get more. So this guy from the National Trade Council who has it, do you think he's really going to help American business if he can profit on them not being successful? And Mitch McConnell threatens to break the rules, to change the rules, to steal a Supreme Court vacancy. Because that's how they are.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. For the last half, we report that Mike Pence's benevolent sexism is viewed by the antiquarians of the Republican Party as just a balance to Trump's more blatant sexism. See, they got both. Okay. Still works, though. Anybody who calls his wife mother, I wouldn't want to be having a dinner alone with him anyway. Okay.
For real.
No matter what my gender. I mean, I'm a burly guy. I can take care of myself and have. And this guy's, he's kind of a little guy. But I don't know. He has this pallor of like the circle of hell about him.
Yeah, it does. No question about it.
And the pallor, it wasn't by accident. He was, with the tobacco lobby for a number of years. And so, he's I guess you would call him a smoker. He's been out there saying, well, nicotine and tobacco are not unhealthy. And, I guess look at him.
There you go. Picture of health right there.
But it does kind of crack me up in a sense because the GOP, hypocrisy be thy name. Because on the one hand, they see, well, I'm painting with a very broad brush, of course, because I was about to say, on the one hand, they are okay with Trump's more blatant sexism. But I would say that there are many that are not. But they're certainly okay with Pence's, as it's been now called, benevolent sexism.
Yeah.
I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help you. It might hurt while it helps, but that's just God's way. Benevolent. In another time, these are the ones that were burning witches. Mike Pence.
No question.
Let's be clear.
Yeah,
let's be clear about that. Okay.
Yep.
And also, we're going to finish up today with a little bit of history. The surge in anti-immigrant and anti-Semitic sentiments mirrors that of the isolationist and xenophobic political climate between the First and Second World Wars. Funny how we don't. I mean, we do make reference to it, but it was bad times. There was a lot of lynching going on then, among other things. All that, plus the Connect Unite Act Daily Codes community calendar and more on the after show with that ever so fine fellow over there on the East Coast. His name is Wink, and this guy back here on the West Coast, and my name is Justice. And we do this 5 days a week for about an hour-ish, smidgen more, usually. In this particular, specific, and peculiar tear in the fabric of space-time, because who loves you, baby?
Exactly.
In my TV lineup in the vintage TV channels,
Right.
they've got Columbo, followed by a show called Kolchak, which is a little bit like Kojak. But you might
okay.
remember him as known as the Night Stalker, and he was a reporter who kept finding paranormal reasons
Oh, yeah.
for all sorts
Yeah.
of. Remember that?
Yep. I
Actually,
remember
not
that
such
show.
a bad, not such a bad show. It
No.
it was a little bit. I think the Night Gallery did a much better with that sort of
That sort of
motif
genre,
of the
whatever.
paranormal. Because Night Gallery, was Rod Serling's production
Right.
after Twilight Zone had been closed down
Yep.
for considerable time. And the approach to the paranormal, and of course, there was still a bit of social commentary buried even in Night Gallery. But I sort of like Night Gallery better than this other one. And also, it was just too close to Telly Savalas's name, Kojak, and come on. And it had
Yeah,
nothing
there
to
you
do with paranormal, and it had everything to do with cartoon characters of daily life in American pop culture. That's when we felt like, it's funny because we look back on those as the halcyon days of like when we felt protected and whatever, and because it was in our youth. And then you think again, and then you go, wait a second, we were diving under desks then, for
Yeah.
nuclear war drills. What the hell?
Oh,
yeah, we felt safe. Yep. I don't know. Maybe this is just God's way, when we have a situation like Trump. It's just God's
Right.
way of telling the new generation, like, you thought you were going to escape it? No way.
Right.
Or another thing that might be communicated from God, like Paul Manafort has 15 bank accounts connected with Russian mob-linked banks in Cyprus. And that's just God's way of saying there's a whole lot of Russian money laundering going on. I mean, what else?
Yeah. Like
What else would
tons.
God be
Yeah.
saying?
Yep.
All right. Speaking about a lot of money laundering going on, this article is out of Newsweek by Miran Gita. For all of Donald Trump's talk about draining the swamp, his cabinet and closest advisors remain bogged down in their own complex finances. On Sunday, the New York Times, ProPublica, and the AP. Are we allowed to disclose anything the AP says in a public forum? I don't know.
I don't know.
We might be treading on some tight rope here. Okay. Regardless, they published the financial disclosure forms of various White House staffers, including some of the administration's biggest players, such as the Chief Strategist Steve Bannon, Chief of Staff Reince Priebus, and Senior Advisor Jared Kushner. Or, as we like to call him, favored son-in-law. In total, about 180 White House employees have released their financial disclosure forms, which reveal what they were worth when Trump took office. Ethics law requires staffers to do this, with senior officials having 30 days to file the necessary information. Because when you're a senior official, you get 30 more days to figure a way of hiding your money.
Right.
That's a perk of the job and the position. And when you look in the GOP Bible, it says it right there, as God intended. Well, in this reporter's opinion, because I've never seen the GOP Bible, but I've heard about it. In fact, it's 30 feet high, 30 foot long, wide, and has big hooks that tears the meat out of your body if you ever get close to it, if you're not a Republican. As well as being the richest administration in modern history, Bloomberg calculated Trump's senior aides and cabinet as having a net worth of $12 billion. Wow. And they said that Obama was like, had like all sorts of rich people around him, and Hillary has all sorts of rich people around her. What they mean is that it's liberals with critical thinking skills who also have a bunch of money. That's what they mean. Several of Trump's wealthiest staff made significant amounts of money working for conservative groups. because that's where the gravy train is, Wink.
Right.
That's a problem. If you have like just a little bit of morality about you can't make money in this today's new a-go-go society. I don't know.
Exactly.
It's
about ripping off everybody, I guess. Yeah.
I don't see anybody. We keep hearing about the graft from liberals and everything. And I'm like, where? I don't see it.
Where's that at?
I would say Rachel Maddow's making maybe some money, maybe, right? Maybe. I don't think I don't think that she's making what the conservatives make, or even on her own network, because she's on the cable part, right. So I can't cite her, one person. Oh, look, there's a liberal making money in the media, so therefore everything's fair and equal.
Yeah.
So we're on the wrong. I don't know. What are we doing? We're resisting, because there's a higher order of things that actually have greater, quote, value than what we can stuff in our back pocket. And I think that's what goes into some sort of compartment in our soul and our heart that connects us with our fellow people. Call me a romantic. All right, $12 billion, and they got most of their money from working for conservative groups. The gravy train. Wow. One family's influence is particularly clear: the Mercers, who have invested heavily in data mining company Cambridge Analytica, media organization Breitbart News, Super PAC Keep the Promise, and conservative group the Citizens United Foundation have helped line the pockets of several White House staffers to Bannon. And where's all the Soros money? I mean, even in Obama's cabinet, where was the Soros money? To Bannon, the former executive of Breitbart News, Cambridge Analytica paid $125,333 in consulting fees for 2016 and part of 2017. Bannon has also made $100,000 in director fees from Citizens United Productions. Remember, Citizens United is a film company making anti-Hillary propaganda in a really shitty way, too. And I got to tell you, Bannon, in some of his stuff, has some, Riefenstahl kind of chops. Not quite, but it's got some slick production stuff. Where Citizens United, I mean, it's like the king of comedy. Let's put a white sheet, hanging up on, draped on something, and start filming.
Right.
Kellyanne Conway, counselor to the president, received compensation in excess of $5,000 a year from Cambridge Analytica, Citizens United Political Victory Fund, and Keep the Promise. That's $5,000 each a year just from them. And Donald F. McGahn, counsel to the president, received compensation in excess of $5,000 a year for the last 2 years from Citizens United Foundation. There is no upper limit listed for these payments, meaning that Conway and McGahn may have made significantly more than $5,000. Report the minimum. You are a senior advisor. 30 days more, and all they have to do is report the minimum. Oh yeah, I made more than $5,000. Did they make $500,000? Yeah, I just made more than $5,000. That's all I have to report. Crazy.
Yeah.
Now, the Mercers are not the only family Trump staffers have profited from. Groups affiliated to the billionaire Koch brothers, oh my God, see, they're still around, such as conservative Super PAC Freedom Partners, also appear in the disclosure forms. And Donaldson, special counsel of the president, received compensation in excess of $5,000 for the last 2 calendar years from the organization. I don't think a big high-powered lawyer is going to take just $5,000 from the Kochs. I think it's going to be something a little bit more with a few zeros added on. Taken as a whole, the documents reveal the extent to which private political work has benefited Team Trump. And this isn't even counting the Russian mobster money, Wink. Yep.
Oh, hell no.
As news organizations continue to publish the disclosures, federal ethics officials are advising White House staffers on how to avoid financial conflicts of interest. The Office of Government Ethics has said that 25% of Trump employees have extremely complex finances indicative of extreme wealth. Ooh. People like Bannon, Conway, and Donaldson will have stopped their external advisory work once they join the White House, but critics worry that while outside payments may have stopped, outside influence could still continue. You think? That's one of the things that kind of pissed me off over the weekend. Oh, we should start clearing up our language, I guess. We may get fed into terrestrial radio and out of deference to their FCC restrictions. We probably should be mindful of the colorful language that we've become accustomed to using, the freewheeling wild west of the internet as it's been experienced for over a decade. But one thing that really peeved me over the weekend was Trump joking about outside influences in the French election. Like outside Russian influences. It was just, they always tip their hand. They always let you know what's going on. And people look at each other and go, did he really say that? Nah, he was joking. Okay. It's Monday.
Yeah.
All right. This next article is by Josh Israel out of Think Progress. On Friday afternoon, Donald Trump signed a pair of trade-related executive orders that he claimed would defend our industry and create a level playing field for the American worker. Standing by his side and joining him for a phone call with reporters was his top trade advisor, Peter Navarro, who explained that the president's protectionist orders would address the, quote, long festering problem of product dumping and would go like a laser at the problem, end quote. Hours later, his administration released financial disclosure forms that I just went over. The documents submitted on January 10th and approved on March 30th show the economist Navarro enjoyed a six-figure salary as a University of California Irvine professor. Really? I don't think it's just $100,000, though. I don't think. I think you maybe might want to add a couple of squiggly numbers in there. Maybe the one stays the same, but maybe some squiggly numbers in there, Wink. That's what I'm thinking. Because he's bringing money into the department, too. Yeah, they get a little bit more in salary. That's how it works. And he owns a pair of rental properties in Troy, New York. But one investment in particular stands out. Troy, New York. Okay. Navarro, whom Trump picked to, quote, develop trade policies that shrink our trade deficit, expand our growth, and help stop the exodus of jobs from our shores, end quote, said he owned at least $15,000 in a fund called TBT Ultra Short Layman 20 Plus. What? Sounds like a financial instrument to me. When it has multi-syllables and run-on words where, capitalizations to kind of see where the separation of the word is, but it's all run-on. And then company, big old financial company names, and then a number.
Right.
That's called a financial instrument. The fund, now called the TBT ProShares Ultra Short 20-plus year Treasury, that's much easier to say, seeks, quote, daily investment results before fees and expenses that correspond to 2 times the inverse of daily performance of the ICE U.S. Treasury 20-plus year bond index. What? I think there's another word that comes across when you're involved with a financial instrument like that. It's called selling short, Wink. And you're not just selling short. Just look at the title of it. It's selling ultra short. Ultra! The fund allows investors to profit based on the opposite performance of U.S. Treasury securities. In other words, the fund allows Navarro and other investors to bet against the United States debt on the presumption that U.S. Treasury bonds will be worth less over time.
Right.
Should the United States default on its national debt, the stock value would skyrocket. You know, we have a debt ceiling fight coming up right now, don't we? Yes, we do. While the Trump administration is reportedly pushing for a debt ceiling increase now, in 2012 and 2013, he advocated against doing so, essentially suggesting the Congress should do nothing while the U.S. defaults on its national debt. So I guess that means old Navarro's going to make some money. Well, theoretically, his holdings could create a financial incentive for Navarro to recommend policies that are harmful to the stability of U.S. Treasury securities as part of Trump's economic team. At the very least, it could indicate just how little faith he has in Trump's ability to make America great again. Well, I don't know. Yeah. If you're on the inside, I suppose there's another word for it, hedging your bets.
Indeed.
Well, he's not the first prominent politician to bet against America with his investments. Eric Cantor did. Remember that? He came under fire for investing in the ProShares Trust ultra short 20-plus year Treasury exchange traded fund. That's a much easier one to say. Wow. And Ohio State Treasurer Josh Mandel, another Republican, who was campaigning on stopping a debt ceiling increase, owned ProShares ultra short 20-plus year Treasury and other bond shorting investments. Okay. But, you know, Chelsea Clinton gave a speech about, you know, feeding the poor and making sure that medicine is distributed, you know, to people in need. And she's obviously evil.
Right. Right.
You know, but these guys, business as usual. But feeding the poor and getting the poor medicine, that's obviously evil in these people's minds. Oh, I better hurry up here. Because time is so relative.
Yeah,
this is also by Josh Israel out of Think Progress. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican of Kentucky, said on Sunday that he would make sure that Donald Trump's Supreme Court nominee is confirmed this week, even if he has to break Senate rules to do so. And Chris Wallace doing a little bit of journalism here, Wink. Wow. He asked about whether he had the required votes to invoke cloture, you know, ending the debate on the nomination of Neil Gorsuch to fill the seat kept open for a year following the death of Antonin Scalia. McConnell said he was not sure, but that it didn't matter. Though he would need the votes of at least 8 Senate Democrats, and we're looking at you, Manchin and Heitkamp. How dare you?
Yep. Among others.
To achieve the required 60-vote threshold, now they're the only 2 so far of Senate Democrats.
Oh, that said they would vote with the Republicans?
Yes. Okay. For Gorsuch nomination. I'm just saying.
There's still a few on the fence, yeah.
Yeah, but they'll be primaried. McConnell suggested if he doesn't get it, he will simply change the rule to make the requirement 51 votes in a procedure known as the nuclear option. Remember when we made a deal with them?
Yes.
Remember? And everybody on our side said, it's Lucy with the football again. Don't do it. She's going to pull it when it comes down to crunch time again. They're just going to take the football away. They do it every single time.
Right.
And everybody said, nah, look, come on. We can work with them. Come on. Okay, here we are again.
Yep.
And they're gonna and they want to blame Harry Reid on this. And why? Is because you think that it's bad now that there's so many vacant federal judge seats. I think it was in the hundreds when Trump took over. Double that by Republican recalcitrants not allowing any of the judiciary nominations to go forward on any level because of the 60 vote threshold. And Harry Reid invoked the nuclear option for these lower judge seats with the agreement that it would never be done on the Supreme Court. But that was before they held the seat open in the last year of Obama's presidency, because it says right in the Constitution that if there's a black president, he only has 3/5 power.
Indeed, yeah.
Which means the last year he doesn't get his Supreme Court nomination of Supreme Court justice happens to pass during that time, or get fired, or resign, or whatever reason. And of course, when did these filibusters begin? We've been involved in filibusters before, and Harry Reid gets blamed for it. But when did they begin? Yeah, that was when Abe Fortas was filibustered by the Republicans when Lyndon Johnson put him up for nomination. And what was his egregious thing? He gave a speech for a charity organization that surprisingly did the evil act of feeding poor people and making sure they got health care and medicine. That's how it works. Wink, that's how it works. Let's get to our new Jim Hightower break for the beginning of the week here. And we'll come back, go through the Connect Unite Act Daily Coast community calendar, and then the stories in the last half. You're listening to the After Show on Netroots Radio with...
Question: what do you get when you mix a barrel of Fables, a sack of mendacity, and a gross of whoppers, topped with a thick layer of subterfuge? Answer: the fiasco called Trump Care. We're going to do something that's great, the Donald trumpeted when he endorsed House Speaker Paul Ryan's bill to displace Obamacare. But Trump Care was great only in the sense that it was a great big bloated concoction of lies. Start with the original lie that right-wing Republicans have harped on for nearly a decade. Obamacare is a total failure. We'll, quote, repeal and replace it as soon as we get control of the national government, they shouted. Then, when Trump happened, he made killing Obama's Affordable Care Act his top legislative priority. Ryan chimed in with a perfect imitation of Chicken Little, squawking that the ACA is in a, quote, death spiral. In fact, the president and the speaker were lying. While Obamacare has flaws that require fixing, overall, it's been a tremendous success. It has reduced by almost half the number of Americans who had no health coverage, benefiting especially many white working-class people who had supported Trump. Moreover, the overwhelming majority of the millions who gained ACA coverage are satisfied and glad to have it. Undeterred, the Trumpsters tried another Chicken Little tale. The health law is doomed, they squawk, because it's been unprofitable for the insurance giants, so they're withdrawing. Bogus! In fact, the profits of Aetna, Cigna, Humana, United Health, and other managed care corporations have soared under Obamacare. The biggest one, United Health, has seen the value of its shares skyrocket by a spectacular 480% since the ACA expansion of Medicaid. This is Jim Hightower saying, that's why Trump is so hostile to truth-based news. Actual facts exposed his lies.
Need an antidote to the progressive blues? Want some good news about how grassroots folks are rebelling against the corporate powers and winning? Well, here's an easy-to-swallow pill for you, the Hightower Lowdown. Hightower's monthly newsletter will give you the lowdown, even as it lifts you up. It's 4 pages a month, jam-packed with facts you can use, actions you can take, and Jim's own Texas humor, all for only $15 a year. To become a lowdowner, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
Okay, we're back.
Indeed, we are back, and thank you for sticking with us. This is the After Show with Wink and Justice. Justice here along the banks of the Rogue River, in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the west coast, Wink is in upstate New York, 21 on the east coast. Our crew, though far-flung, and they be of flesh and blood. For our purposes, they are the ethereal creatures who reside in the cloud, whose advanced intergalactic technical abilities allow Netroots Radio, and thus by extension the After Show, to span the globe, the solar system, and beyond.
Heck yeah.
Okay, today's Connect, Unite, Act Daily Codes Community Diary is facilitated today by Navajo because her work never ends.
Right.
Never. And she opens up today's diary with your best spring break. And I don't know, best spring break. I have to think about that one. I wasn't, here on the West Coast, the idea of spring break in college was decidedly different than what would be experienced on the East Coast, where people would go to Florida. I mean, right. There's people that go to Cabo, or not Cabo, but Cancun.
There you go.
But I don't know. We didn't have this migratory trek necessarily like they would with the schools on the East Coast. So my spring break, I don't know. What did I used to do? Go see family. Probably. Color eggs for the little kids.
Right.
All right. New group forming. Of course, the Wisconsin Cossacks are forming up their group. So Cosmail, Chris, they call them to become members of that group. And Navajo, once again, since her tasks never end, does maintain the event list. So if you have an event question or suggestion, Cosmail her, and she will get right on it. So coming up, events, let's see, Spring 2017 Cheers and Cheers Cossack meetup. I think they're going to plan the Cheers and Cheers dinner in Atlanta. But they're going to be meeting up on Saturday, April 22nd at noon at Flatbread Pizza in Portland, Maine. Cosmail and Hawks 42 to RSVP. New York Cossacks will be welcoming Navajo in town on Sunday, April 23rd. That's the next day at Spitzer's Corner, 101 Rivington Street in the Ludlow District at high noon. Cosmail Navajo to RSVP. And, of course, Thinking Fella and Ojibwa are organizing the Epic Glacier National Park meetup held on June 30th through July 2nd. Cosmail them to RSVP, and they'll point you to a diary for important planning details. And as referenced earlier here in the calendar, the Netroots Nation 2017 Daily Codes annual Cheers and Cheers dinner on Wednesday, August 9th at 5:30 p.m., of course, in Atlanta, and the actual location will be determined by Navajo as she gets more RSVPs, and they're growing as we speak. So that is your Connect, Unite, Act Daily Codes community calendar for the 3rd of April of 2017. Wow, time marches on.
Yeah.
Ooh, boy, oh boy, oh boy. April, man. April.
Yeah. It's one of those strange months. Yep.
There's like more than 1,000 days left in a potential first term of this guy week.
Oh, yeah.
It's tough thinking about that on those terms. Okay, this next article is by David Ferguson out of Raw Story. Vox.com producer and correspondent Liz Plank said on Sunday, of course on a news show, that Vice President Mike Pence's marriage rules about not dining alone with women other than his wife are different from Donald Trump's hostile sexism, but it's still demeaning and treats women as unequal to men. MSNBC's Richard Liu asked Plank if it is sexist that Pence won't dine alone with women other than his wife Karen, and will not attend events where alcohol is being served without his wife at his side. I don't think she's known as Karen. She's referred to as Mother.
Yeah.
Now, let's get this reporting correct here. Plank said, matter-of-factly, yes, it is sexist. but I think it's a different kind of sexism than we're used to seeing. We have 2 men in the White House, she said, one who brags openly about sexually assaulting women and another one who doesn't want to eat alone with a woman. Yeah, that's not American Taliban BS, is it, Wink? My God. This isn't the kind of hostile sexism we see from someone like Trump, Plank said. It's benevolent sexism, which is still a form of sexism, but it's sexism with a smile. Yes. Let me shackle you while we throw you in the river to see if you float or sink. And if you sink, you must be human. And you'll be innocent of the charges. Excuse me, sir, but I'll be dead. Well, at least we'll know, won't we? We'll record your innocence in the proper forms, and then we'll be on our way. Have a nice swim. Yeah. Smiling all the way. This kind of sexism is rooted in the belief that women and men are fundamentally different and that women can be excluded from very important parts of society because they are women. It's emblematic, she said, of the antiquated view that a lot of members of the GOP have of women. Okay. I don't know. Is this preaching to the choir, Wink? I think we know this, don't we? It's nice to be reminded, though. And it's nice to have it actually spoken out loud in polite company.
Right.
If you look at the way
vote for that party, to be honest with you, I don't get it.
If you look at the way Mike Pence and Donald Trump have conducted themselves in the White House, signing executive orders restricting women's reproductive rights without any women in the room, you see where their priorities really lie. Playing some up. Yep. Well, this does go back to an old, standard that, it's a 40s and 50s standard. This is right up in Trump's, formative time. The men he looked up to, practiced this art quite effectively. Yeah, honey, you and the girls go in the other room and gossip, and the men will do some business now. Or, time for cigars and whiskey. Okay, honey, leave the room. Thank you very much.
Indeed.
We'll talk to you later. That kind of BS.
Yep.
Seen and not heard.
Right.
Just stand there and be pretty. Oh, thank you. Thank you for the, beef bourguignon. That was wonderful. Now you and the girls go gossip about cleaning products. Thank you. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
There are, Pence traffics in this kind of religious practice where the women pray with themselves and the men pray with their gender. Nothing American Taliban about that, though. And when you say, how can women vote for that? It's because women are human beings, too, and they make up their own decisions, and they're just as susceptible to being brainwashed as anybody else. Some women think, well, maybe I want a Mike Pence to smile while he's putting me in shackles and throwing me in the river to see if I'm a witch or not. Because when I sink to the bottom and drown, everyone will know I'm innocent. And that's okay because God loves me. I don't mean to be cynical, but hey. Okay, this next article is out of the conversation. Of course, that is out of Australia by Ingrid Anderson, lecturer in arts and sciences and of the writing program at Boston University. This February, more than 100 gravestones were vandalized at the Chesed Shalometh Society Cemetery outside of St. Louis, Missouri, and at the Jewish Mount Carmel Cemetery in Philadelphia. The Anti-Defamation League, otherwise known as the ADL, has called anti-Semitism in the U.S. a very serious concern. An ADL task force confirmed that 800 journalists in the U.S. have been targeted with more than 19,000 anti-Semitic tweets. The organization also reported an upsurge in anti-Semitism on U.S. college campuses. More disconcerting, however, is the ADL's admission that although this increase in anti-Semitism is troubling, quote, it is essential to recognize that for both positive and negative reasons, we are not alone, end quote. In the 10 days following the presidential election in 2016, nearly 900 hate-motivated incidents were reported, and many on college campuses. Many of the incidents were targeted Muslims, people of color, and immigrants, as well as Jews. White supremacist groups like Identity Evropa, American Vanguard, and American Renaissance have also been more active on college campuses. The author here says that they are a Jewish studies scholar. Research shows that this outpouring of anti-immigrant and anti-Semitic sentiment is reminiscent in many ways of the political climate during the years between the First and the Second World Wars, and known in the U.S. as the interwar period. In the early years, the U.S. maintained an open-doors policy that drew millions of immigrants from all religions to enter the country, including Jews. Between 1820 and 1880, over 9 million immigrants entered America. By the early 1880s, American nativists, people who believed that the, quote, genetic stock, end quote, of Northern Europe was superior to that of Southern and Eastern Europe, began pushing for the exclusion of foreigners whom they viewed with deep suspicion. That's right. If you're brown, we don't want you around.
Exactly.
In fact, according to scholar Barbara Balin, most of the immigrants who were from Southern, Central, and Eastern Europe were considered so different in composition, religion, and culture from earlier immigrants as to trigger a xenophobic reaction that served to generate more restrictive immigration laws. In fact, our first drug laws were hung on the Sikhs, of all people. About 1,500 of them came on a boat up the Sacramento River to work the fields and whatnot. And they were blamed for the devil weed. And then when they ran out of Sikhs, then they started going after Mexicans again. Yep. Nativists continued to rail against the demographic shifts created by the U.S. lax immigration policy, and in particular, took issue with the high number of Jews and Southern Italians entering the country, groups many nativists believed are racially inferior to Northern and Western Europeans, just like they do now. Go into Germany and listen to people talk about, the Mediterranean. They're all lazy. They're so lazy. They're not hard workers like us. All they want to do is lay around in the sun. How many times have I heard that?
About 10 million times, yeah.
Okay. These fears were eventually reflected in the makeup of Congress, since the electorate voted increasing numbers of nativist congresspeople into office who vowed to change immigration laws with their constituents' anti-immigrant sentiments in mind. We're just doing what our people want. We're not here to elevate people's consciousness. We're here to do what they say, which is really true in many respects. But there's also a responsibility that when you know that your constituents are wrong, to, inform them of such. Or you're afraid you might not get reelected because you told them the truth. Wait till they find out you've lied. You'll pay now or you'll pay later. And actually, I think telling the truth pays off better, even in the long run. Maybe in the short run, but definitely in the long run. Okay, so through time, increasing numbers of Jews were not allowed into the country as codified by the anti-immigrant Congress critters of the day. And so we come down to a question of why does this history matter? Well, the political climate of the interwar period has many similarities with the anti-immigrant and anti-Semitic environment today. Trump's platform is comprised in large part of strongly anti-immigrant rhetoric. Pew Charitable Trust survey shows that as many as 66% of registered voters who supported Trump consider immigration a very big problem, while only 17% of Clinton supporters said the same. 79% of Trump supporters embrace the proposal to build a wall along the entire U.S. border with Mexico. Moreover, 59% of Trump supporters actively associate unauthorized immigrants with serious criminal behavior. Now, once again, this is the rump part of our population. They're never more than a third, right? That third comprises really the totality of the Trump supporter.
Right.
Right? And those with maybe a little bit more moderate views than that rump have been peeling off, and so it stays the same around the 3%. We always had around a third of the population that were Looney Tune birchers.
Yep.
They just didn't have any power. But now they got money. Some of them, like the Mercers, are the most Looney Tunes of them all. Much like the claims of interwar period nativists that Southern and Eastern European people were racially inferior, the assertions of Trump and his supporters about immigrants and the dangers they pose are nothing more than demagoguery. Yeah, we have these populations from the South, and all they want to do is lie in the sun and take our jobs away. I don't know how that works. How does that logic work, Wink?
I don't know.
They're going to steal our jobs and then be on welfare at the same time. Oh, I get it, because they're going to be working such low-paying jobs, they have to be on welfare to make ends meet. Maybe that's what they mean. But it does kind of crack me up. All these lazy Mexicans coming up here to take our jobs. Oh, God. Somehow the brainwashing worked. Trump's claims about the dangers posed by immigrants may not be supported by facts, but they do indicate the U.S. has increased isolationism, nativism, and a right-wing nationalism. His most recent travel ban blocks immigrants from 6 predominantly Muslim nations and includes a 120-day freeze on Syrian refugees specifically. And yet, like the Jews of Europe from the interwar period, many of these refugees seek entry into the U.S. because their very lives are at stake. For many scholars, as this author, Trump's America First approach is a reminder of the interwar period all over again. We see anti-immigrant sentiment and anti-Semitism going hand in hand. In the current climate, Muslims are also easy targets for a new generation of nativists whose fears are used to justify turning away refugees and immigrants. And it's an old trick. There's nothing new about this. When the economy's bad, kick the immigrant.
Right.
Yeah, I mean it's almost an American institution that we probably should memorialize. We should make a monument to it, maybe. Kick the immigrant. And then, no matter whether times are good or times are bad, you always got hippies to kick too.
Right.
Okay. So it's the American way, Wink. Jeez.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why it's surprising. All right, we better get out of here. We got, of course, Hartman coming up at 6 minutes after the hour. We'll listen to Garatum by Luigi Cinque and the Tarantula Hypertext Orchestra. And in the interim, we got Randy Rhoads coming up later on in the day, so stay tuned for that. In fact, we got content all around the clock, 24/7, 365. I suggest that you listen to Netroots Radio. Why? Well, because who loves you, baby? Okay, Wink, I'll see you on the other side.
All right. We're out.